As Season 10 of Guild Wars wraps up in the Forerunners server, now they are preparing for Season 10 Gauntlet. Not only that, Season 11 is around the corner. We have the maps, so let's preview them. All right, so here is the Season 10 tower map, and we all now became accustomed to having a couple of engagement points here on the bottom, especially here. This has been the preferred spot for a lot of defenders, so we have been able to place Valera in a number of situations where she has become really, really strong. So those defenses usually typically fall with a very strong Grotesque Fiend. Also, we have these 3 ground tiles here on the back that allows us to put a formation together where 3 units can be put together. And of course, we also have this kink up here where we could use somebody like Nisa and make some compositions, try to get them to work, at least add flexibility to some of the roster deficiencies that you might have. But there, if you had Valera, there were definitely 2 spots here where you could make very, very strong defenses if you had the other units to go alongside with them. So what is the Season 10 Gauntlet map going to bring us? What did they modify? What did they move around? What did they take away? So here it is. So essentially, as you can see, one of the points that was eliminated was this ground tile here at the bottom. So we don't have that anymore. But what we do have is the addition of this ground tile here. So now we have kind of 3 here being formed, where maybe there is something that you can possibly try to bring to the table. Just be very careful as to how you place them and how you protect them, so you're not blasted off the map really easily, but at least they're adding that flexibility there. Also, when it comes to the other point of engagement here on this one, the major difference here that I'm noticing is that they took this 3rd ground tile away, but they did add the one right beside it. So if we go back and look at that, the old map, so you see there, we did not have the ground tile there, but now we do when it comes to this one here. They eliminated this one, and guess the other thing that they just opened up as well. Yes, they did. They gave us Ingrid tile right on top of it here. You can see this just directly coming down. This could also be a Dahlia tile. For some Lady Alexandra compositions, at least this season, Dahlia came back into play, especially when she's adding her slow. So it did allow for some people to be able to put a very good piercer team together that has been challenging to beat. And not only that, here we kind of have the same kind of setup that we did previously, except that again, this ground tile has been removed, but we still do have this platform here. And they also removed this platform tile here. So we can no longer count for any of this to be really functional. But we do have the ability now to put something together where this tile here, if you can put a defender here and make sure that nothing really gets your unit down here. There is some possibilities here. You're just going to have to test them out to see if you can withstand bookkeepers, anything that could target this ground tile here as they are coming up the pipeline here. So that's essentially what the Season 10 tower map for the Gauntlet is going to look like. It might change some of the formations, but I do think that even with the movements of some of the platforms, that the compositions that had Valera are still going to shine. And also now we have a little bit more flexibility in putting something together for the watch guards. So your Nisas are going to be integral. They might be coming into play, especially for those of you that don't really have an arbor composition that you can put together, or maybe something in relation to a nightmare type composition, if that is something that you can skate by in the tier that you are in. Okay, now as it comes to the keep, we know we had a couple of engagement points that we could make here. A lot of the preferences did seem to rely more here, especially if you had a very good piercer composition. But then we also have a couple of spots here where people were able to put some very good defenses together. Very tough defenses, especially if you had Valera, Nisa, and you had your standard tank units like Procure, Torador, and Gun. So, what did they exactly then change for the Season 10 Gauntlet map? So a couple of changes that you can observe right away in the Season 10 Gauntlet map. You can see they opened up a ground tile here. So this is now available to you if you want to use it for any type of composition, especially the ones that have the long range, the attackers that have the long range fighters. So if you want to try to put something together here, is something that is definitely, they open that up for you. The other one here is this ground tile here. This platform units do remain. I do not see many big changes here, at least in comparison to the former map. The only thing that I can pick up here is the addition of this platform here alongside this 3. So we had this 3 in the former map. Now this one is being opened up for us. We still have the ground tiles here that we had on the previous map, so that really didn't change. So if you had any really stubborn compositions that you would put in here, those will still remain there. The only thing that they did close down is this platform right here. So, but we still have these 3 platforms down here that we can possibly manage to do something with. They just moved that platform here. They moved the platform unit that you see here on the bottom. They moved it from here and they closed this out. And then the last thing, based at least from what I noticed from the previous map, is that these spots here kind of remain the same. Here on the top where you see at the core, we still have these 3 ground tiles with these 2 platforms. The addition of this platform is the only thing that really comes into play. But if you place anything here, anything that is on these platforms are going to get sniped off. So aside from the ground tile here being added alongside with this one here, because now this could possibly open up some formations where you can put the defender here and have something back up here with these platforms back here. I think that pretty much the compositions that we got to know in Season 11, especially with those Valeras and Nisas, those are going to still dominate Gauntlet. And, you know, at least from the positioning and how things are opening up here, that's possibly one variation that I might see coming into play here. Aside from that, just remember this is all death row. So if you put any defender here, you're gonna make it really easy to get sniped off if you don't have possible protection, especially when it comes to the platforms that surround this particular units. And then anything that you place down here is susceptible to anything coming from here, and then just have a direct shot there. So just be careful in placing anything here. But at least from former seasons, we know that anytime where you can come into a kink and then place a defender right on top of that usually works very well, especially with this platform here being added and now having something a little bit more direct towards the units here with this ground tile here. So Piercer comps, especially if you have Lady A, that could come into play. Anything with Valera also, because she's tactical, because you could put her a platform or a ground, definitely will come into play. So I think that, again, this is going to be a new entry point or an engagement point where people are going to try to optimize some of those defenses, especially if they were falling off being put down here. So if you had your defender here or you had the defender here and you're trying to put something together and somehow some people found a way to sneak by of it, now at least you'll have a little bit more of an opportunity here for the keep. All right, finally, let's wrap it up with giving you a preview of the Season 11 maps. What I have here is the Season 11 tower. So now instead of coming down, we're going to spawn up. So we'll have the these 2 points where we can deploy our demon soldiers. Now, they did kind of do something similar to what they did with the keep. They gave us 3 ground tiles here. Again, we have to be careful as to how we place our units here so they don't get easily attacked by the demon soldiers that are coming here. But as you can see here, at least they gave us some platform units to play around with. There's 4 back here. We have a couple of ground tiles here on the bottom. So anything that could possibly extend out, we could use it if that is the way that you decide to go. But at least there's a couple of engagement points that I see here that we can definitely get some utility from. There is no ground tile here. We do have a couple of platforms here that we can use a little bit more direct if there is something that you can think of. I'm already thinking of some particular units that we could place in these platforms that extend over here if we do put our defender here and we have a very good fighter that we can put here. Giving us options, that's for sure. So That's something that you can look forward to see if you can place anything together here that is Watchguard, Piercer, Esotericist. Nightmare, I don't like the situation here for the Nightmare units. That's definitely for sure. But there's definitely some options that you can get here. Now, if you want to, you can make this here your engagement point. So this here, I would consider be more of a mimic of what we have right now with the Season 10 right at the beginning. Now, except that we have one platform that is right behind the ground tiles here. So you can make something work out of that. We have these two platforms up here too, especially if we want to make this here the engagement point. And finally, we have these three back here. You know, I would be careful placing any type, thinking about placing any type of tanks up here. I would imagine that this here would be your engagement point. You can use these ground tiles here for fighters that can extend out, and at least we're giving you options here to healers or any type of unit that has long range that can do some damage or CC or anything like that. So Season 11 I think is going to look a lot the same what Season 10 looked like in terms of compositions, and given how many kinks there are here, Valera is going to be a strong unit again. So if you have her, you're going to be able to form very good compositions to at least 2 CC damage, anything that you were able to do to try to put a strong defense together. So that's exactly what Season 11 tower map looks like. So this is something that we can start thinking about, especially with arterial crafting, as to where we're going to start once the season opens up. And finally, here we give you a preview of the Season 11 keep map. And then as you can see here, we have our 3 deployment tiles here as we standard with the keep. We have kind of a turn here. There's a kink here with the 3 ground tiles right as the demon soldiers are going to track through. Some ideas here that you can possibly come up with, especially with somebody like Nisa. But we have platforms here that can be utilized to back up these units here. We have some platforms that you could possibly use here. Just very careful. Make sure that you don't get picked off really easy. And at least from my initial count, this should be safe. But we want to go ahead and test this out in the sandbox to make sure that nothing really tricky is going on with the targeting of the demon soldiers as they come up here. So this is the first engagement point with these ground tiles here. We have a couple of more here options as ground tiles. And as you can imagine, given that we have a ground tile here, there is some possibilities here, given that we have this one right here with right behind this platform, especially for fighters that can really have the long extension that can hit multiple tiles around them. So there's another possibility there. And finally, we have something similar to the Season 10 keep, where we have this kink here with these platforms. We don't have the one here on the bottom. We definitely have here these two. So something that could possibly work here, right? If we make our defense, our tanks point right here. So there are some options there. And then lastly, we have here this platform up top. You can start already thinking of what unit might excel here with these 2 ground tiles and some another platform here. So we just got to be very careful as to how we lay all this out, just to make sure that nothing gets picked off really easily, especially if there are units that are targeting this particular platform, for example. So again, I see a lot of resemblance to the Season 10 keep. And again, we're probably going to see the same type of compositions excel, such as the Arborers, the Esotericists, and the Piercers, especially for those of you that have Lady A. So that's it for this video. It's just a preview, just to give you a general idea as to how these maps are laying out for Season 11. Thank you all very much for tuning in and watching. Good luck in Gauntlet, and we'll see you all in the next video.